Right. Good evening, chat. Hopefully this is all working because I, this is the first time I'm actually playing with ham radio on air. For those who didn't catch it, I did a silent stream I guess it was yesterday, and you know what? I gotta adjust some of these elements. I've really been flexing my AV muscle as of late because I've been doing stuff with RTMP, Nginx RTMP. I mean, I used to work in video streaming. I worked for a major company. That's a story for a different day. Right now, I'm mostly seeing if I can reliably transmit a beacon and receive it. On the previous stream, I've got two radios hooked up, and I am a licensed amateur. So on the top is we're seeing a screen feed from a Lenovo Yoga. It's running YAAC and Direwolf, and its headphone and microphone jack is just plugged into a Baofeng handheld. I'm sorry I don't have any cameras, but my HDMI adapters are all on the West Coast, and I'm out east finishing out the last part of the move. But I had to find all the ham radio stuff to transport it properly, so I actually want to put the Yatsu, that's my base station, and permanently install it in the Prius, and then the Raspberry Pi would drive the radio, and then I could literally beacon my way as I do the cross-country drive. So there is actually a little bit of stuff doing with that. Hopefully this works. I was testing it. I did do some test signals earlier. You can see on the transmitter those pink lines, which probably YouTube is eating. You know what? Hold on. I can make that bigger. It's about as big as I can make it. Chat is quiet tonight. And then again, I don't know. Ham radio on YouTube is weird. I personally have not found a channel I found very exciting. I mean, I've been licensed for a very long time. Well before I started this channel. But living in the New York metro area, I have gone on air, but my current place, well, my old place now, was so atrocious that I could do stuff on 2 meter, but the only thing I could even hit is the local digipeater. And I really just never had the motivation to do anything locally. But I figure I have all the radios. I might as well just get them all out. Wow, this is just going to be a quiet night. Just 7. Okay, well, no problem. Hopefully the stream is working okay. I'll probably work on video stuff because sooner or later, the beacon should broadcast once I have it set for every 300 seconds. So I have heard it go earlier, so I'm still waiting for it to come up. If it doesn't, I have to get on the Lenovo and tweak it a bit. And hey, Aaron, I hope you're having a good night. Hey, my man. Well, this is the first time I've streamed with my microphone in ages. The new place has really... The bandwidth is okay, but it has a lot of drops and connectivity problems, so I don't know how well I'm going to be able to live stream from there. I'm probably going to have to get fairly creative. So, alright. I mean, I guess part of it's due to how the algorithm works. I mean, it's just my last few videos have not done very well. Like, I published the NetWare video, and it didn't even get 10,000 views. And the last several I got published only got about... I don't know. Maybe it's just that time of year, but I really feel like my channel is struggling, and it doesn't help that I'm going through a wild and complicated move. I don't know. It's like... For me, I'm just sitting in a room talking to a microphone, and occasionally the things light up. I did fix the audio loopback, so you should be able to hear when the Pi receives something. You should be able to hear it now. That was actually both easier and harder to fix than I thought. Like, there's a surprising amount of plumbing that's basically going on here. You know what? I'm worried if YAAC has actually crashed. Hold on. Figure. Oh, it didn't save the new transmission rate, so let me set this. You know, it's set to 120 for now, so it broadcasts once every 2 minutes. Okay. I just changed the beacon to run it once every 2 minutes. I just heard it transmit it. There is fairly bad stream delay on this, but it should work. I haven't. Oh, yep, there it is. There's that is us hearing ourselves in the void. KD2 JRT on air. So that is over RF. That is an actual RF transmission that I generated from the other system. I don't have the Yatsu set up to transmit yet. Yeah, I don't have the Yatsu set up to transmit, but it's easy enough. Mostly, I'm making sure the setup is stable because the absolute rule of ham radio is make sure you can listen. You know, I'm actually going to amend the stream title to just chatting. I'm going to I'm probably going to leave this running for, yeah, because I really need to figure out how to make some of these work better. Then again, my last live stream got a lot more clicks than the previous ones, so, you know, maybe I am getting somewhere here. I mean, we're up to 12 viewers. So I can definitely do messaging between the two. Let's see if it receives more beacons. Like, it should now beacon once every 2 minutes. Yeah, I just saw there's the transmitter. Because basically, the map program is called YAAC. It's yet another APRS client. It's written in Java. And the Pi is running, and it's connected to a virtual TNC terminal node controller, because originally hams basically had serial ports into teletypes. That was the internet. I mean, realistically speaking, use of TCP/IP over ham radio predates it over ARPANET, something I actually found out recently. I hope that the packets are echoing onto YouTube. I probably would have to pull my phone out and, like, I'm also eye-gating this, so it should definitely be being heard. Oh, it was... Oh, I see what was happening. Okay. I've definitely been having some problems with getting APRS to work the way it's supposed to, but it is being spotted. When was the last time it was seen on, seen or being heard? Oh, you know why? It's probably because the Pi thinks it's KD2JRT, but I'm transmitting as that, so it thinks it's listening to itself, so it's not real. It's not eye gating. That's actually probably the right thing to do in this situation, because I was accidentally leaking packets online. Hey, Kilo. I know what it says, but I don't want to say. You know, it's like I appreciate that call sign. That is, if that's a systematic, I have to tip my hat off to you. If that's a vanity, how many hams did you fight to have to get that call sign? Like, to get any call sign that's a word. I don't know. Sorry, I'm easily amused. I should once I upgrade to amateur extra, I should probably get an N call sign. The N prefix, I believe I can get one as a general, which is what I'm my current call sign is just what I got when I got my original technician. I never requested a new one, so it's just a standard 2x3. Because I don't live in Alaska, and there hasn't been 2x2s for technicians in a long time. I might need amateur extra if I want. I know if I wanted an AC call sign, I would need amateur extra. Or they may be up to AD now. Wow, that's astounding. I have considered getting a vanity call from the FCC. I've got another 2 years. I had to get into ULS to update my mailing address because I haven't been on air in quite a long time. So, you had to deal with the actual, you have to deal with the dungeon because, my God, the FCC makes it so irritating to actually legally get back on air. So we have been transmitting packets. So this is basically a prelude to doing more aggressive stuff because I could technically put a Unix system, like an actual PDP, emulated PDP-11 on a RIDI link, and it would work because that would be period correct. There were PDP-11s at University of Hawaii that were connected to ARPANET via radio link. I assume that you could, in a pinch, you would be able to use RIDI to get directly into the console remotely. It should work. There's not, V6 Unix does not expects an actual teletype. And from a software perspective, a teletype and a radio teletype is one-to-one identical. I just don't have a way of generating a real RIDI signal. I technically could modulate it on the base, but I can't do it with the handheld. But I could just transmit RIDI with a FM modulation. Like, it would be so scuffed, but it would technically be real. Ham radio is its own very unique beast that ham radio is how you got on the internet in the 80s, and that is not an exaggeration. Amateurs as a whole actually had an entire /8 of IPv4 address space, and we had it, and I'm talking as amateurs as a general term, we had it prior to ARPANET. I don't know if 44net or AmperNet was actually connected to AmperNet. I can't think of a legal reason why it wouldn't, but I don't know if the two networks were actually connected. They may have just ran IP, but 44net is actually used these days mostly. One of the more interesting features of it is it's a dead route. It's up until very recently, it was legacy ARIN address space. I know this because I've actually done some work for ARIN in the past. That's the American Registry of Information Numbers. They're the agency that assigns IP addresses. And I actually helped get a local club of 44net allocation in the past. I've never requested one myself. Oh, we just lost. Okay, so that machine is faulty. Okay. I suspected that machine was faulty, and now I know that machine is faulty. Because we lost the picture. It actually just crashed. Or I shouldn't say just crashed, it just turned off. So I'm currently, let me make sure, okay, my mic can hear me from here. I'm sitting at the laptop rebooting it. Okay, so that's Direwolf running. going. This is one of my first times that I'm really doing, like, this is one of the most complex, like, it doesn't look like it, but this is surprisingly complex networking is happening to make these screens work. Alright. So, alright, that is definitely a problem. I was hoping that was fixed. I had tested it earlier, and it was staying on for a while after I installed updates, but yeah. Okay, that hardware is faulty. I bought myself I literally went on Amazon, and I found the cheapest Chromebook. I found a $45 one. It's a refurbished 2016 model. I'm going to reflash it. It should get here tomorrow, and I also bought a USB HDMI adapter. So tomorrow we're going to basically reflash that Chromebook, and I'm just going to hack it up to use as a transmitter. I also got a adapter that theoretically would let me plug a handheld into my MacBook and transmit from that. But I have heard that I have not had good experiences using a non-dedicated system with ham radio. I've managed it, but realistically speaking, it gets messy. And on top of that, Core Audio doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Like, yeah. Like, conceivably, I could get it to work. And I think I do want to try that. I think the end goal of this is actually going to be trying to get the Linux AX25 stack going. But right now, I'm just seeing if I can make two-way communication happen reliably, because it's been such a long time since I broadcasted. And I've been listening to the feed because, like I said, I'm off frequency. I'm not on the national broadcasting frequency for APRS, which is 144.139 megahertz. Let me see here. Hopefully you're all able to hear the audio packets. Yeah, I just opened the squelch on the bass so I can hear it. The biggest problem with using the Baofeng is there is no good way to wire it. Oh, that's a packet being received. Oh no, that's the squelch. Let me lower the volume on that because now you're hearing the squelch. Oh, yep, that's a packet being transmitted and a packet being received. So I will just keep that right about there. Hopefully that sounds okay on audio. Yeah, the level should be fine there. Because now we can listen to the, we can hear if I'm accidentally leaking artifacts on air. One of the fun things to do with an SDR is if you get lucky, you'll tend to hear various Windows sounds just being transmitted if someone's using Vox. I've definitely done it more than a few times. Okay. Yeah, so what we're basically hearing is the radio background noise of New York City and New Jersey. It's about an S5. Where I've got the antenna is about an S5 noise ceiling. It's currently, I have it, it's a mag mount that's stuck to a cooking pan that I have wedged in the window. The handheld is literally sitting in my desk, and this apartment has so much lead paint that RF does not escape. I can't even get Wi-Fi to work in here properly. We are transmitting AX25 frames, amateur AX25. We're transmitting singular packets. And it should be transmitting once every 2 minutes. Unless it crashes again. And here's, I mean, we can see the actual raw decode here. We can see, this is what we're receiving on the Pi. So the first bit is my call sign, Kilo Delta 2 Juliet Romeo Tango. The next one is the client, so APJ YC. That is the Java API. That's the identifier of yet another APRS client. Yep, and that's another packet. Then what follows it is a timestamp. That's this field. It's in, I believe that's in UTC. And then what follows it is GPS coordinates. Now, I don't have a GPS. I don't have a USB. I do have a USB GPS. I haven't connected it to the Pi. When I do the return drive across the country, my hope is to have a live stream on this channel tracking my beacon, which will be attached to the Prius. And it should literally track me going coast to coast. I did it via cellular data on the outbound drive, but that isn't super interesting. I mean, that's Google Latitude. If I was to go as far as to set up an HF transmitter, I would probably be able to be heard the entire drive. On 2 meter, it depends if I use the base station or a handheld. I don't know if I'm going to be able to install the base in the Prius yet. But if I can put the base in the Prius, I can transmit at 50 watts. If not, I will transmit at 5 watts with a handheld. But antenna geometry is 95% of transmission. With a beam antenna, I have successfully transmitted, I've gotten two-way communication 45 miles on a handheld. Actually, this Baofeng, or maybe the other one. I've successfully heard 2 amateur radio satellites. I've heard the downlink from ISS. I don't remember if I tried transmitting, but realistically, if you're going to you need a proper antenna if you're going to do it at 5 watts. In theory, with an omnidirectional, you could do it. You could hit ISS with a 50. Yep, that's another packet being going through. I should see it. Yep, because I just heard it. I'll hear it before, there's a pretty long stream latency on the Pi, because it is actually an RTMP stream from the Pi itself. So, and then, continuing on the data, the rest of the message is basically a comment. I'm indicating that I am broadcasting on this frequency, and if you want to contact me on voice, you can. And then I just am marking that this is an experimental station. Like, I can actually, if I remember how to do it, let me go into the main client. Come on. Yeah, actually, see, you can now see that it's shown up here. I can hit station info, and we can see what's being transmitted. This is, satellite tech works exactly the same way. I just need a different antenna, and I need to be tuned to different frequency bands. But you can talk to FM birds with a handheld and a technician license. All ham radio. The funny thing is that the technician license is actually some of the hardest things you can do in ham radio or amateur radio. Back in the days when Morse code was required, I was licensed after that, so I don't actually know CW. But originally, when you had Morse code, you could transmit HF. You could transmit Morse on HF frequencies. Those are known as the novice and technician bands. You could also transmit basically any mode you want above 30 megahertz. So that's the bottom half of the 6 meter band, the 2 meter band, the 1 1/4, 70, yada yada yada. I'm not going to go for the full allocation here because I've probably forgotten half of it. It's been a long time since I was a tech. So what realistically tends to happen is for a lot of hams, they need to upgrade to general if they really want to talk to another human being. But if you've got multiple radios and you have some idea of what you're actually doing, because I worked for Mixer. I was a contractor, not for Mixer directly, but it's a long story. But I know a lot of stuff about AV. I did the FTL streaming protocol. It's like, here I am tuning. I hate like, on one hand, I really hate bragging about my accomplishments, and it's kind of what I feel, but it is part of my resume, and it's something I've done. Like, right now what you're seeing is me finally putting my brain to using my brain to handling my stream, because historically I've always used our HDMI screen captures, but for the time being, I'm not going to be playing with vintage computing because they're currently all in boxes and out west. I won't see them again for months. And I could use emulators. I could get back on the VAX, and I probably will. I actually have a video on Windows NT PowerPC coming out soon. I've been working on it, but I've been stalled on it, so I would recommend getting, yeah. The fact of the matter is, by having my amateur license, a lot of, if you go, amateur license, it means that if they ever need to broadcast, and let's be honest, ham set up wherever they can. Yep, that's another packet being transmitted. So that is actually working. Let me send a message packet. Let's actually see if that works. That transmitted. Did it get received? I heard it go. So I transmitted a message packet. It did transmit. But I didn't hear it. Did I address myself wrong? Station defaults. It's probably on... let me change this to... It's probably because it's the same call sign on both sides. The network is designed to drop duplicate packets. I probably have to... Oh, yeah, look, it's actually resending it. It will, because it's not getting an acknowledgement that the message has been received. Thanks, Connor. I'm going to upgrade to Extra because I think it's less painful than dealing with the FCC renewal process. Although now that I'm back in ULS, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm up for renewal. I believe you can renew with it once it gets to 1 year. Well, yeah, you know what? Hold on. I can actually set this to an SSID. This is the pi is receive only. So let me just put it as our pi, because this isn't transmitting. It's only receiving packets. So let's see if that will hear, if I can ping that. Yeah, it's not showing. Interesting. I've done messages before, so let me turn message logging on. Defaults. I'm transmitting AX 25 frames I'm transmitting AX25 frames modulated in it's 1200 baud. I forgot what the actual modulate. It's AFSK 1200. Okay. Look, I'm actually remembering aspects of my license. It was a very long time ago, but I do actually remember that from the book. Okay. So why is this not popping up? We're definitely hearing the station. What's Direwolf saying? Oh, that's not Direwolf. Oh, look, the packet is not being the packet's being malformed. Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure YAC is sending a bad packet. Let me fiddle with it. That worked. Hey, look, that actually worked. Okay, so what I did that time... Oh, welcome to the joys of ham radio. You have to debug both sides. So apparently, when you choose the option for direct routing, and I just did finger quotes in real life, it actually just puts the text direct no dig into the packet. So I just chose from the drop down temp11 because I'm not on the main network. I'm running on a side frequency, so there should be nothing listening for this for digipeating, but just in case. Yeah, well, I had this set up as KD2JRT2 because, yeah, I mean, we're definitely hearing ourselves quite well. I mean, I could even set up for eye gating. I had that going the other night, but I currently have it disabled. But that is definitely progress. The biggest thing is, do I really want to run the base station on Vox? I technically have a rig control cable with it, but something with this, I've never had good experiences with this rig on computer control. It gets stuck, it gets stuck in different modes, and there's no good way for me to currently pull the TT. I would have to upstep the Pi's voltage to 5 volts, because I could rig a GPIO line, but I only get 3.3 volt out. So if I want to transmit from the Pi, it's going to be on Vox. But the Baofeng's on Vox, and, you know, technically, yes, Vox delay is a problem, but I really, like, there's a giant angry rant about Vox delay. I shouldn't say giant angry rant, but it's a very long technical reason of why you should not use Vox, and it says you should wire in a PTT switch. I don't necessarily disagree with that for a base station, but I have never found a good solution to hook up, you know, to do PTT if you're operating with a mobile phone, and I've done that plenty of times. 144.39 is, yeah, 144.39 is actually really busy here. I was listening to it the other night, making sure I can decode. It's like I said, right now I'm mostly just getting an idea of what does and doesn't work. This is me just basically doing a burning test. Well, yeah, I mean, we're definitely hearing it every 2 minutes, but part of this is to see how reliable this is, how long the first thing I have learned when I was testing with this last night, don't try and transmit on a Baofeng when it's in the cradle. At least if you've got the extended batteries. I actually got an RF burn on my left hand because of that. It got all tingly. Yeah. I've always wanted to listen to APRS on HF. Um, I had a ham stick in my old car, but I never could get it to decode. I was able to do FT8 from the hard Manhattan. I was even heard transatlantically, which is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. When the transmitter dies again, I can switch it over to the local band, but there's my previous live stream, I literally just had the Pi listening to APRS, a local APRS traffic on 39, and it went. But one of the big things I actually want to do with this setup, since I'm actually kind of... So the biggest problem is that the new place has really crap internet. It may be a problem on my circuit of it, and my new... The guy that owns the place is completely... He knows me, so he's completely happy for me to redo the home network, which will probably help. But I may not be able to get a good... I'm probably going to have to do a lot of streaming from the cloud, and I don't think I'm going to be that desperate, but if it really came down to it, I could probably rig an FM... I could actually use Echolink for that if I really had to broadcast my voice if I didn't have internet. I could technically... If I really put my mind... Excuse me. If I really wanted to, I could probably live stream on YouTube without being connected to the internet. APRS on HF. It's 300 baud. I believe there's a calling frequency on 20, 30, and 40. I know that doing data modes on 80 gets really iffy. I know it's allowed by the band plan, but I've never tried it. I think the deepest I've gone into the bands is 40. I've never managed above that. But 30 meters is the data band. I think, but not all countries have 30. I think, aren't we secondary use on 30? I feel like we are. You know what? Let me pull up the ARRL band plan, because if we're going to talk bands, I should have that. I checked 3 times just to make sure I'm still in band. Yeah, so on 30, packet is 1040 through 1050. I've done FT8 on 20, and I've done some on 40. But doing a random wire antenna in Manhattan is fascinating. Yeah, we're second. Okay, it's 60. It's been, like I said, it's been a while. I have never worked 60. I mean, if you really want to get exciting, we could try doing something in medium wave. You could probably... I mean, there... Well, once I have it on the... have the transmitter in the car, the current plan... So it's a Prius. So when the engine isn't running... Because my historical problem with car operations is I've never found a way to deal with ignition noise. Now, granted, you could run with a deep cycle ham battery. You can run off a car battery for quite a few hours before you're going to run into real problems. But with the Prius, if I'm tied into the auxiliary battery, I shouldn't get ignition noise. And even then, if I'm simply idling, it's going to just sit there. I then could stick a handheld and then have a 2-meter backhaul link to the Pi, and then transmit on HF if I can actually get reg control to work. I think my Yatsu was a Hamfest special. I got it for very cheap. They said it was a low mileage rig, but it's a quirky rig, and it's doing what most old Yatsus do. It's got zebra striping on its LCD. Yeah. So far the yoga has not crashed. I mean, I'm just kind of chilling here because it's been a my plan was to just basically have this up and like do video. Um, yeah, because like one of the things I could do is I could put additional tactical marks on and then have it show up. But right now I'm basically just waiting for the reliability. I'm basically seeing if I can even get this to work reliably. Because one of the things that I really learned is make sure your setup works and works really reliably. Like, I've jury-rigged things several times when I got to broadcast as a 1X1. I was a technician and I got to be W2H for a brief period. Mostly because I really know how my rig works, so I can deal with its quirks in the field. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard Yatsu is recommended as a starter rig. It's fine if I'm actually like flipping through the bands, and I've not had any major problems with it on VHF. But I have, like I said, I've had so many problems with it on rig control. And I don't know if it's the rig or if it's the cable. I might, like, if I seriously get back into the hobby, like, you know, let me actually see what a car base station is going to set me back, because I'd rather not use this one in my car. Like, what is an actual 2 meter, 70 centimeter base station? Like, well, you can get the antennas for several $100. Let's see here. Base antenna. Here we go. VHF base station. Because, you know, technically I don't even need a ham base station. I just need something that's FM that I can put in the ham bands. I mean, yay, part 97. Well, that's why I'm looking on eBay. But I feel like I'm looking at eBay and I am literally one step away from getting a freaking boat anchor. Like, if I ever get a boat anchor, save me. I don't want to deal with vacuum tubes. You know, I am not... Like, I know Soggy Electric built a vacuum tube computer, but I just... Supposedly tube noise is a real thing, and you can hear it on AM, but I'm sitting here thinking about, it's like, I'm imagining what transmitting a digital mode on a boat anchor would be like. Because there is no technical reason why, like, if I had a 1930s health kit with working tubes, I could transmit IPv6 over it. I could encapsulate IPv6 in AX25. But my God, decoding that would be probably would be horrifying. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could probably... I mean, there's still a fair number... Like, there is this Kenwood two-way UHF base radio, but I really need 2 meter. Let's see here. Like, I do have a spare HF rig, but... I don't know, like, do they actually make 50-watt handheld... or portable? I mean, that's not actually terrible. I mean, you can find them for about... You can find a fair... Yeah, actually, that really isn't terrible. I need a different data cable for this, but... Oh, sorry, that's all you... I'm literally browsing eBay on the other monitor right now. Yeah. I wonder if I could resolve the gremlins with this radio on rig control. It might be just a cable issue. I mean, if I was just doing APRS, I could get away with it on Vox in the car. I would want to probably do something less horrible, but I could do it. I could even rig the transmit switch into the mic line. Like, I wouldn't let's see here. That's actually quite a nice Kenwood. Is there any way I can, like, tap into it? I mean, with something like that, I'd probably just need something that plugs into the mic cable. Like, I've heard that Kenwoods are not terribly awful to hook up for data. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I remember, hey, look, my beacon is actually working. I'm really happy about this. No, this is two separate radios. There is no SDR here. I am actually transmitting, and I'm transmitting under my license because I am a dangerous radio amateur operator, amateur radio operator. So I am now listening to my own signal. The problem that I'm having is that the machine that I'm using to transmit, is faulty. I was hoping that gremlin was resolved, but it's not. So I've got a Chromebook, a $45 Chromebook coming off eBay, or not eBay, off Amazon tomorrow. I'm going to reflash that, and that's going to be System 2. And then we're going to reconfigure the Pi for transmit and receive, because it's got a transmitter on it. I just am not using it right now. Because part of what I'm making sure is I'm not leaking bad noise into the signal. Because for the time being, I'm going to be running off Vox until I can figure out an actual solution to pull a transmit line. Which may or may not be difficult. I just need to, like, once I have the rig in the car, I will know how bad my hell is going to be. You know, it might be that it's just because it's a shitty USB cable. Like, if I had an actual DB9 out of the Yatsu, it'd probably work a lot better. And there are shields for the Pi that gives it an actual serial port. No, it just turns off. Like, it just completely and totally turns off. I've tried. It will stay on for about an hour, maybe two, and then it just goes off. I thought it was resolved because it had been on for quite a while, and then right as I started the stream, the transmitter part went blank. It's just an old. It was literally it was a spare parts yoga. That was used by a school district. I don't have the supervisor password for the BIOS on it, so it's basically stuck running Windows 10. Just, yeah. I could try that. You know, I've never actually, you know, that's actually not a bad idea. I don't know if I've got ferrite beans. I used to. So far we've managed to transmit 29 packets. I need to find the energy to work on my... this is not going to be a long stream. I'll probably only be on for maybe 1-2 hours. What I'll do is I'll probably switch over to just listening to APRS traffic in a little bit. Because at least I'm reasonably happy that this is sort of working. Yeah. It's just more, like I said, this isn't technically my system. It's just one that happened to be handy. I'm getting a dedicated Chromebook that I can tear apart for this. Yeah, it shouldn't be terrible to do, but like I said, the machine doesn't even stay on, which is kind of a problem. So probably the next thing I'm going to do is like I said, we'll be beaconing on both radios at once. Yeah. This is digital transmission over radio waves. Ham is just a term for a radio operator. The technical term is amateur radio operator. Because you're basically someone that our spectrum is considered a natural resource that anyone can access. So it's very heavily regulated under international treaty. But basically the ham bands are meant for experimentation, teaching, and use. Realistically, they don't get used that way all that much anymore, but that's because modern radio technology you cannot easily do on ham bands. And most radio stuff is now commercial, which is explicitly disallowed on amateur stuff. I could go through all port Art 97, but basically, what I actually transmit on air has to be non-commercial, incidental stuff. Like, my YouTube channel, you're basically watching my transmission, but my transmissions are completely incidental. If I do something, I'm going to have to reread the Part 97 rules, but realistically speaking, as long as I'm not transmitting... If I'm not transmitting anything commercially, because the example that is always given is you can auto-patch a pizza. So, yeah. I have not heard of the Evolve Masto laptops. Let me check these out. I mean, I could technically have just gone a Pinebook. I mean, this is very similar to what I'm getting. Well, actually, no. I mean, $45 Chromebook is about as cheap as it gets. But, man, you don't need... Ham radio's ham radio has gone to the point that we used to require DSPs to decode stuff. And now these days, we just do everything in software. I mean, realistically. When was the last time anyone has seen an actual TNC? Like, a actual physical serial terminal node controller? I just realized I should pop Direwolf back on. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, the 12 volts. Although the cheapest I see it is for $100. And right now, this is none of this is on like battery power. The handheld's running off battery, but the base station's running off a bench supply. So it's the start of something. I'll be right back. So, um, I mean, you should be able to get JNOS running on that, at least an old one. There's absolutely nothing stopping. But the honest truth of the matter is, assuming if I ever get more time on that machine, I would love to turn that into a packet BBS. I've never run one before. I have never run a packet BBS. I've never actually done much on digital modes aside from FT8 and APRS, but I've done a lot of APRS. I just feel tired. This move has just been draining me like nothing, but you know, it's nice to sit here and talk into the microphone for a bit. And if you enjoy this content, the links are below. All right, we're coming up on an hour. So realistically, how many people are actually, yeah, like, then again, you know what? It's 8 o'clock on a Thursday. Who's realistically going to be watching my channel? I mean, I could definitely go for some two-way contacts once we're back on APRS, because I might do some fun with lighting up the network. Yeah. Well, I want to actually do a 44-net RF link. I registered with ARDC, and they're currently validating my ham license. Hopefully they are not like Logbook of the World, because that is the most miserable validation process I ever dealt with. Which reminds me, I have to do that. I let my TLS certificate expire. Is the packet noise actually getting transmitted? I mean, it looks like it should be. Like, I'm pretty sure for keyboard to keyboard, I'm going to have issues due to the Vox delay. Although maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, the keyboard to keyboard protocol, it's half duplex, so it realistically shouldn't matter. Yeah. Dizzywig, because I want to get back on amateur bands, and realistically speaking, transmitting ancient Unix over radio links, the internet was basically built on packet radio, just without the radio part, because if you want to play with old internet, RF is exactly what it wants. I mean, IPv4 was in use on ham radio before it was in use on Ampernet. The thing is, I need full duplex links. Well, I technically don't, but it's going to be... TCP IP on half duplex is a sad. But I should be able to manage that. Like, I also can do, when I get down to it, I should be able to do two-way message contact with the International Space Station. It's really, I've listened to the downlink on quite a few occasions. If you want proof that the Earth is round, listening to Doppler effect as you tune through the bands following it, because the ISS is moving approximately 11 kilometers per second above you. So, assuming you even have a pass where you can hear it, you have Doppler effect as it moves. Yeah. Well, originally, if you wanted access to the internet, you were either a licensed ham or you worked for a corporation, and that was true until 1991. So, very early free software stuff was very much in the spirit of ham radio. It's why Linux has an integrated AX25 stack that, like, an actual, like, you can literally just request from the kernel an AX25 socket and it will just work. I have heard that it is bit rotted out of the kernel. Like, it's still there, but it doesn't actually work anymore. And apparently, ARDC has a grant trying to fix this. I might take an actual look at that because I actually know a lot about Linux networking plumbing. I've never actually debugged. No, that's not true. I've actually dealt with NetFilter directly. I've never actually dealt with the nuts and bolts of the kernel code, but I know how the entire thing works. It's absolute madness. Like, the Linux networking stack is a beast. But it'd be interesting to see if I could even get an old version working. Like, the Linux AX25 guide was last updated in 2001, to give you an idea of the last time anyone's, like, realistically touched this stuff. Yeah, so you can see the more advanced decode over here. Because you can see the GPS position, the tone, and the message, which is that. I can make this bigger. I just wait. The problem is that just with the move has, like, completely wiped me out. Like, I've been back in Jersey City for a few days now, and it has just been... It's been hell. I'll be honest. Leaving here will be a very good thing for me mentally. Yeah, it's just going to be good for me mentally. And now I have a sudden urge for a snack. Apparently madness just makes me hungry. I think I have yogurt. I just don't know what I actually have. But I am calling this an actual success. Like I said, I mostly got this going the other night. I've discovered that YAAC, which is the APRS client that I'm running on the Lenovo, it just keeps hanging on me. Like, it just... Multiple times I've come back to it and it just deadlocks. Now, if I wanted to run a full dedicated beacon, I should probably just run it in Direwolf directly, because it can do beaconing with nothing else. You'd have to set up your own infrastructure, scram.net, but realistically, that you had to do it back then either. Or you'd have to find someone in your area who is broadcasting an endpoint. But you could, theoretically, you should be able to route like, I know for a fact you can take a Raspberry Pi, run Direwolf on it, and get a serial TNC out of it, which you could plug into any home computer. You could then, like, in the modern day, we just basically run it over, we have what's called, KISS TCP, which is, it's basically a very simple serial framing protocol, but there are multiple ways you could do this. You can basically turn a Pi into a 1980s TNC. Yeah, the Lenovo is a Windows machine. It's running Windows 10 long-term servicing branch. It's just how it came. I literally just made a new account on it, and I threw Direwolf on it. We are currently making sure that I can broadcast and receive my broadcast. Basically, I already know that my transmitter is going to have to be replaced. Not the radio part, the computer part, but the replacement will get here tomorrow, which I'll probably live stream working on. No, I know for a fact that Direwolf can run as a beacon standalone. I just find configuring it immensely tedious. Because you have to type, you can't just drop the cross down and have it work. And I realistically should flip the transmitter and the receiver. I should be having the Yatsu transmit and the Baofeng listening, but I set up the Yatsu first, and I was just decoding APRS traffic on it. Well, I mean, what isn't it? I mean, the fact of the matter is we have more hams licensed than ever before. But when was the last time realistically, I have not experienced much at 2 meters that has been all that enjoyable. When I was out in Seattle years and years ago, in Bellingham, I was able to tune in, and I occasionally talked on some of the SAR nets, since, like I said, I was a retired firefighter, and mostly just to use my license for something. But I mean, the culture of Elmering is just basically dead. I mean, realistically, if you get your ham ticket, what communities are there anymore? There's Reddit's R Amateur Radio, which I've actually had pretty good experiences with, but QRZ was not super active last time I looked at it, and it's got a lot of old minds on it that really just... Ham radio is like being in an alt news group in the 90s. That is the most clear way I can put it. And if you know what alt is an acronym for, you'll understand why I'm not saying it out loud. And there are some okay YouTube channels, but realistically speaking, you're seeing someone that has most of the gear and is knowing how to operate. One of the key rules, like, when you're operating with 2 handhelds, you're using QRP. I mean, you're transmitting at 5 watts. On top of that, Baofengs have really crappy receive front ends. If you have the squelch open, they generally work, but it's all downhill, because the entry, what you get with the entry to the hobby is very hard to talk of anything. And I expect I know a lot of people who get the technician, even people that get the technician when it still had the Morse requirement, and maybe got on air once or twice and then never used it again. I make a point to use my license, but I really don't know how many new hams are really coming into the hobby and are staying in the hobby. Like, the licensing requirement has always been a hurdle. But on top of that, you get licensed, and then what? Like, KM4AC. I mean, I'll look. See, I mean, this channel is actually an example of why I feel like the hobby is dying. When I look at ham radio YouTube, it's usually just the type of how-to videos. But I find, like, I haven't watched these videos yet, so this is not a critique of it, but I'm just looking at the thumbnails. This channel is smaller than mine. It's only got 29.6 subscribers. The average video is only getting about 2K views. I mean, how many people are actually watching the video all the way through? Well, but that's the problem, is a general class license is $250. The thing is that it's unrealistic to ask people to go for a general class license, and realistically, there is something you can actually talk to at 2 meter: satellite operations. But there's this idea that talking to FM birds is hard. You should be able to, and I intend to prove this, you should be able to establish regular two-way communication with an FM bird as long as you're using a beam antenna and a handheld. I will do it with a base to begin with because it should be easier to prove that my setup is correct. But realistically speaking, with a technician, you should be able to do meteor scatter. You have access to 6 meters, which should be able to propagate pretty well. Well, you need a view of the horizon. Well, that's why you... Yeah, but... K-Booty, I mean, what it really comes down to is that's why you have it do the message transmission automatically. You basically record yourself sending the QSO, you have it go, and then you push the button and have it go, and then if you hear a call, and then you call out call signs that you hear, and then hopefully someone responds to you. But even then, you should still be able to do APRS digipetion. I mean, you could do automated digipeating to ISS with completely hands-free. You should literally just be able to set it. You can basically set Direwolf to transmit every few minutes and then just sit on ISS's frequency. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard, but I mean, satellite ops is always going to be a dog pile. It's just the nature of the beast. But at least you're hearing other people. I don't know. I think a lot of it is that a lot of amateur clubs have basically just gone kaput. I was helping a club out in Port Jervis with their repeater years and years ago, and it was like a two-man operation. They had 4 people, which was the legal requirement to get a club call sign, but I think one guy was active. Yeah, I mean, there was literally one guy who was active. When was the last, I used to go to New York Resistor here. I actually specifically went to them because they are a New York City area club. They have a permanent antenna setup. You could never get on air with their rig. Ultimately, I just brought my rig and I plugged into their antenna, but I mean, what is this? Granted, the most active radio club in the area is probably Columbia University's club. I hear them on air pretty frequently, and they're open to the public, but if you're not a student there... Oh. Okay, I just watched that. It's actually clean shutting down. It is Windows being a pain. Because I literally saw... Why did it shut down? I'm just currently looking at the settings because I literally watched that. It literally went to the Windows shutting down. Like, is the battery just dead on this one? No, it's fine on battery. just shut down. I assume that to be something in the event. I am just looking for the logs to see what's going on. Apparently nothing's going on. You know what? This might be a Lenovo thing. I'll be back in a moment. All right, I'm back. No, it's not. Oh, you know, you're right. It's not activated because that's how this machine came. Okay. All right. Today I learned. I didn't realize that was the cause that it's not being activated. It turns off. I was going to install Linux on it anyway, so. It was a school laptop. I know for a fact it was a school laptop. It it was like surplus to one of the school districts. That's why the BIOS is locked out on it. And it just had long-term servicing branch unactivated. I haven't reinstalled. It had been reinstalled, but I didn't mess with the built-in operating system when I got, from what I've been told. It's not my system. I'm talking like it is, but it's not mine. Well, this is a fairly old build of Windows 10. I think this is long-term servicing branch from 16 or 18. Like I said, I literally just got this system and I threw it up. I'm going to hold on. I have USB. I should have a USB stick here. Ubuntu would probably run pretty well on that. USB. No, hold on. You know what? I do have a USB. I do have a USB stick here. Let me make sure there's nothing on it. And then we can just... Alright, hold on. Now I need to find a USB port on this laptop to make sure it's... You know what? I think I still prefer to use the Chromebook for this. But, let's see. Is there anything on this stick? I have really been unhappy with Ubuntu. I just don't know what I would use it right now. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so this USB stick looks empty. Let me confirm that it actually looks empty. I can't easily live stream myself reinstalling that machine, so I am going to just nuke and pave it. I was hoping not to do that, but if that's what it is, that's what it is. See, the one thing I like about this Yoga is it has a TRSS headphone jack, which means I can just plug the data cable from the handheld right into it. It's a great... The other systems I'm going to have to use a adapter. Now, I have the adapter. Windows boot menu in recovery mode. All right, you know what? That's going to be a project for a different day. Like I said, I'm happy with how far we've gone right now. So, because right now this is showing me that my SEP is basically working and I am semi-competent. I'm gonna probably live stream for another half hour, just chilling, because the next one I'm going to do is once I have the next live stream I probably will do will be me reinstalling the Chromebook to use as a transmitter, and if I can get this one reflashed and installed Linux on it, I will. Oh, you know, I have some chocolate here. Ooh, man, chocolate makes everything better. So yeah, that is basically... But I need an extended burn-in test. Let me go fill up my tea pitchers. I'm back. See, I'm not broadcasting on 144.39, so I don't know how that spot's happening. I think that channel, I did definitely see that. Yeah, it did hear me an hour. When was the last time? Yeah, last position. Last position, 1 hour, 1 minute. Okay, no, because my Direwolf on the Pi is eye gating, so it does actually hear me, even though I'm not transmitting. I'm not transmitting on 147 or 144. I probably should disable the eye gate, but when I'm not using this station, I'm having it just listen to APRS. God, that's the name for it. I'm literally looking at the ships that are passing by. There is Hornblower Freedom. That is the name of an actual AIS vessel that is passing by. It's in the river. Yeah, it is eye gating. So I'm literally spotting myself. That being said, it tells me that KD2 CIF is hearing me, which I'm not certain how that happened. It's possible I transmitted packets on 144.39 last night. It also is possible that they're monitoring the entire 2-meter band and they just happen to catch me, because there's no requirement. Ham radio is supposed to be what's called a variable frequency operation, or VFO. Basically, if a frequency is busy, you're supposed to move off it. It doesn't work very well for things like APRS, where everyone has to basically agree on the settings. But I know for a fact that there is a... You know what? I'm going to look it up. I'm actually going to look this up. But I do believe there's a calling frequency on 70 centimeters. Okay, so there was a proposal to use 144.5.925 for APRS, but it's never actually really been used. I mean, if I really wanted to just have radio frequency to myself, I could move to 1 1/4. I believe the handheld I have plugged in is it's 2 meter and 1 1/4. Yep. Thanks for that, Tron Nerd. That was one of my oldest videos. I really wish I could get more done on my channel. It's been a time, chat. It really has been. That being said, I literally have gained 2,000 subscribers in the last month. Less than that. I mean, I've broken 42K. So I'm doing something right, even though my last few videos aren't really going amazing. Yeah, I don't want to post a link to ULS on YouTube because YouTube might get angry about that. But you could look up the call sign on ULS. You can also look up my call sign. It's just YouTube gets really twitchy when it sees anything that looks like an address or personal information. So even though ULS and ham radio handles are public, yeah. Actually, you know, I'll look up your handle right now. Let's see here. Universal licensing system. License search. ULS is running on ancient sun crap. Like, you still get a sun emoji. Oh wow, you're not the first one to have that call sign either. Wait, someone actually got it as a systematic? Are you kidding me? Oh my, I just found a unicorn. The previous holder of KB0 Oscar Tango Yankee had a Technician Plus license. It was issued as a systematic. Yeah, but it was someone who had a Tech Plus license. That is an ancient. I see yours, but the radio service is different. Your license is HV, which means it's a vanity. Because mine is HA. Yeah. There's a fair number of women operators. The problem is that you get a lot of people can be asses both in real life and on radio. That's about the best way I'm going to sum that one up. But I believe the youngest ham, I've heard like the youngest licensed was like age 4. Yeah. I mean, that's generally what happens. Someone either becomes a silent key or they fall out. So if it's an expired call sign, you can basically just put the request in, and the FCC will usually grant it. It's really just a matter of actually doing it. Well, the problem is that for many years, ham radio is not a cheap hobby. Chinese radios really made it possible for someone to get into the hobby for less than $1,000. I think my first radio was just a Baofeng handhold and an APRS cable, and that got me on air. I was able to work repeaters. I was able to do APRS. I think for everything, the 2 radios, the data cable, the programming cable, which I realistically don't use anymore, I think I spent about $80, plus it was another 30, it was 20 or 30 for the class and the licensing. But for a long time, you had to have Morse code proficiency at 5 words a minute. You could get a novice license without that. Yeah, novice and technician did not require showing HF. Technician Plus was Morris, and then general, advanced, and extra were Technician Plus, but more. No, that's right. Technician Plus was a result of the Morris requirement going away. If you were licensed as a technician prior to the general prior to the band changes that took us from 6 license classes to 3, you got Technician Plus, which kept your old privileges and then got folded in, like, during the entire shuffle there. But, yeah. There was a big boom of ham radio operators that got... Because realistically, without the internet and computers as we know it, for to learn Morse, you had to basically know someone. And that's where the idea of Elmering came from, because when you wanted to get involved with radio, you got involved with your local club, you would take classes to both pass technician, get Morris, and, Element 1, 2, and then you'd sit the class, and you either get your Novice Tech or Tech Plus license, depending on the circumstances. I got licensed in when did I actually get my original technician? I was living in Rochester at the time, but I assume that would be 14 or 15. That was a really bad year for me. The last decade was not good for me, but it's finally turning up. But that year in particular, I really remember it just being absolute garbage. Well, you know what, so I was given a grant. I was granted my license on October 30th, 2015. I expired 10/30/25. I thought the technician reset my expiration date when I upgraded to general class. Maybe not. It's a once a decade thing. I've heard that the FCC has been trying to get Vandy calls. You have to renew them more frequently, but currently you just have to renew once a year. I haven't been on air, like, I briefly got on air about 2 years ago because I had updated my license to my mailing address at the time, but then my mailbox moved at street addresses because ULS, it specifically allows you to, it tells you, put your mailing, you know, you have the two fields, you put your mailing address, you put where you live, but your mailing address is what shows up on your public license. So, yeah. Well, I mean, these days it's a lot easier to get an upgrade because you can do it without leaving your house. I forgot was the FCC instituted rules for remote hams. Like it was meant for Alaska, but it was basically to let you do teleconferencing licensing because amateur TV is a thing. I don't have the equipment to do it, but there were definitely places that could do it. So they basically made it that the FCC made rules back in the 90s that you could do licensing remotely as long as you had free VEX watching it. So when the pandemic hit, it finally was the impetus to get all of it done online. Yeah. Like, one of the biggest concerns I hear about hams, people getting into it, is they don't want to be doxxed, but realistically, if you have a driver's license, you're in public records. I mean, if you know, the United States, that ship sailed in the United States a long time ago, and while I completely understand it for people who don't want to be identified by their legal name, it's like, the problem I have is that if you don't know what you're doing or you could actually cause a lot of unintentional radio interference. So the licensing requirement really exists to make sure you know what you're doing and that the FCC or other hams can basically talk to you if you need to. I've never actually been on CB. I've never owned a CB radio. I intended to install one in my car when I drove up to Alaska, but I never did, and I wasn't even an amateur at that point. So, when I was doing cross-country biking, I prototyped a couple of bike computer designs. It was actually this Raspberry Pi running a handheld. I had a lot of reliability issues, but I was able to send receive packets because when I had that set up, I had the TNC hooked up to the Bluetooth. Basically, I had Direwolf running, and then it was connected to a Bluetooth HCI channel. And then at the time, I had an Android phone, so I could load up APRS Droid. It would connect to the Pi, and then I'd have the GPS right there. And that's as far as I got it, because I had a lot of reliability issues with that setup, because APRS Droid is garbage. Then again, I really just don't have good feelings about Android anymore. I run iOS these days, but iOS and amateur radio is like... This has been a really chill stream for me. I'm going to probably wrap it up here. 2-hour mark at the most. I've done what I intended to do. Once I have a better test rig, which I'll either be reinstalling this laptop or the Chromebook tomorrow. Sorry, just a bit of chocolate makes life so much better. Yeah, the next one is, can we do reliable beaconing, and then can we do two-way beaconing? I do want to try the Linux AX25 stack, although I've heard that it is entirely bit rotted out, so that'll be interesting. The honest truth, with Titanium, you're paying a premium for pretty useless. Like, if you have an idea of what you're going to use it for, like, I'm not going to tell you how to or not to spend your money. I happen to have it, but my Titanium system almost never gets turned on. That being said, the idea of doing amateur radio, because realistically speaking, I have everything I need to transmit IP. And the FCC has actually killed off the signal rate limitations that used to exist. So I don't actually know how fast I can get on 2 meters now. I don't think there's any reason why I shouldn't be able to get 9600 on 2 meter. Yeah, it's current. Direwolf it's all userland these days. Xaster is listening to localhost 8000. Here, actually, I'll pull it up. Yeah, see, it's just listening to itself. And you can see all the different ways you can add a radio. Because I do have a GPS. I have a USB GPS sitting literally next to the Pi. It came today. I just haven't plugged it in. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is that if you're just retooling Wi-Fi equipment, even if you're in channel 13 or 14, which I believe are the amateur bands on a standard 802.11 router, what have you actually achieved here? You're running Wi-Fi with more power. I don't consider it that super interesting. Like, you can... Actually, I'm thinking about this. I mean, a Pringles can on an antenna turns a Wi-Fi router into a beam. You could realistically, at 5 watts, you could probably beam that. You could probably do point-to-point, what? It's 2.4 gigahertz, so your low microwave band, but it should still be line of sight. Tron Nerd 82, that is a very good life decision. Don't go into debt for vintage computing. I don't have Titanium hardware up and running right now, so I can't run or test anything. I've never, I should connect to a mesh network. There is NYC Mesh, and there's actually even a node out here. Actually, before for the end part of the stream, let me switch over to the national APRS band. Okay. So the router just... Yep, there we go. Now we should start hearing new stations. The router is now... The Pi is now listening to 144. Yeah, it's listening to 144. Let me just dupe this scene. And then... why is... I'm using Streamlabs, and sometimes I find it very irritating to work with. Let me see here. Come on. There we go. And then we just put that up there. Alright, so now we're just looking at the Pi directly. So now we're starting to hear stations in the area. I could just enable transmit, but I'm just not going to do it tonight. I want to make sure I have two-way beaconing working reliably before I start playing with the national APRS network. So we should... So let me... let's switch the map mode. So currently, I believe I have it... Configure... I believe I have it only listening to directs. That's not what I want. Map intensity, auto grid. Why do I always forget where this flipping option is? Oh, here it is. Filter data. All right. So let's just see the Visa Digipede. There we go. So now we're hearing all the stations that are digipeating. So we are hearing KB2 ear, and now we're seeing new stations pop in as we can listen to it. Let me turn the grid off. Let's see how far out we're actually hearing tonight. Most of this is being digipeated, but because like I said, it's really the only thing I can realistically hear from here. But just to give you an idea of how far you can actually send and receive. Realistically, if you can hear it, you can send it on APRS. Yeah. Alright. Have fun in bath time. Like, you can actually see right here, we're seeing a 1 call sign, because that's a Connecticut ham. I'm in District 2. I believe Oregon is 7. It's D7. And we can tell by the path of how we're hearing stuff. So we actually did hear KD2 CIF directly, because if we look at the repeater path, the asterisk means that it's been digipeated. So if there's no asterisk, it means you're hearing the packet directly. Like, one thing I greatly appreciate is because now you have the weather station. I now have weather stations. If I tune in and listen to a NOAA weather or satellite, I can download a satellite image of this region and then overlay it, which is really quite nice. Like, I'm not in the sticks where I'm living now, but I do plan to do a lot more in the sticks. So this is also... I wouldn't mind getting back into search and rescue work. I'm from New York originally. I currently live in New Jersey, and I'm moving to Oregon, having lived in Oregon before. I'm literally just here for the next 3 weeks, finishing packing up this apartment and moving out. I've already got the most of my studio out west. So basically, as we listen more and more in, we're basically just... It takes about 30 minutes to hear the full cycle. But basically, you're just listening for anything that is... Yes. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. So those are the stations I'm hearing directly, and then this is what I'm hearing through digitation. I'm not hearing any nets. I'm not hearing any tacticals. Yeah, I'll be in the Portland area. For how long, I don't know. All right. So how long have we been on air for? All right. I'm going to shut it down in 7 minutes when we get to the 2-hour mark. I'm happy with what we've done tonight. I don't know. I think I've officially run out of conversation. I lived in Anchorage for a year. I would go back in a heartbeat. If it was at all practical, I'd go back to Alaska. Well, the beautiful thing about motif apps is they just don't change. The biggest thing you have to do is you gotta turn the fonts up. But it will run on basically anything. I probably just need some fresh tea here. It's almost dinner time for me. So far, nothing really interesting popping up. I mean, I've listened to APRS in this area. It's like... The way... With ham radio, it's really... Let's see here. I don't recognize that software. S9... TVOF. Because the first field should be what is actually the software that's transmitting the packet. Oh yeah, we definitely saw the there's the NYC mesh right there. So the cost of living in Anchorage is actually lower than the tri-state area. I pay New York City proper. In New Jersey, I pay less in taxes, but I actually was saving money by living in Anchorage. That being said, after dealing with GCI, I missed Comcast, and that's not a place any human being should ever be. Bet Spatula, when you basically are stuck with, like, there's an entire industry of delivering pizzas by Bush Airplane in Alaska, because there are people that will pay $200 for a fresh hot pizza. It's a thing. That's probably more than $200 these days with the price of avgas. My problem with GCI wasn't the actual internet service. It was getting the flipping tech to come out and do his job. Yeah, we're hearing a fair bit of weather stations, APRS stations, Red Cross. Like, one of the uses for APRS, although I don't see it all that often, is you can post repeaters as tactical objects for people coming to the area so they know how to communicate and coordinate. But I mean, the only objects that's even being broadcast in this area is the mesh, is New York Mesh. And even then, I think I need 10-meter equipment to be able to connect. I probably could actually get that to work. So how far out are we actually hearing tonight? Because basically we have 3 major digipeaters in the area that hear everything. Have I not heard it tonight? So KB2 ear basically hears all of southern New Jersey and a good part of eastern Pennsylvania. I forget the one that tends to hear all of North, although, yeah, Matt Wan and Clayton also here. I forgot who runs these. They're run by I think they're run by one of the clubs. All right, I think that's the 2-hour mark, and it is. So I'm going to wrap this up here. This is your host, N Commander, signing off. I will be back with more ham radio content, and maybe if I can work on video editing tonight, I'll be one step closer. I may live stream later. I want to keep some progress on this every day, so it doesn't. So when it's time to to finally leave, I'll have this finally set up and working in my car, and not letting it go to the last minute. All right, catch you all later.